Okay, we're back with more Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. Yeah, we got a new solo gate. I wanted to play this a couple of days ago, but it was some kind of like system error that I guess had to be patched up really quick. But we got some new stuff with the ancient gears, which is pretty dope because I want to like boost up my ancient gear cards. Still need a freaking green gadget just to complete the entire set. Ancient Gear Dark Golem. If this card is normal or special summon, you can add up to 2 cards, ancient gear cards and or gear town from your deck to your hand. Then discard 1 card. Also, you cannot set cards for the rest of this turn. Ancient Gear Statue. If your opponent controls more monsters than you do, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can tribute this card, special summon from your hand or deck 1 Ancient Gear Golem or 1 monster that mentions it, except statue, ignoring its summoning conditions. Oh yeah, this is useful. This one like Crawler. This one looks like Crawler all the way with that thing on his chest, like a straight up dual disc. You can send 1 Ancient Gear Golem from your hand, deck, or face-up monster zone to the graveyard immediately after this effect resolves. Normal summon 1 Ancient Gear monster. If you normal summon or special summon Ancient Gear Golem, except during a damage stab, you can special summon 1 Ancient Gear Golem from your hand or graveyard, ignoring its summoning conditions. You can banish this card from your graveyard, place 1 Ancient Gear Continuous Trap card from your hand face up on your field. Ancient Gear Dragon. If you control no monsters or all your monsters you control are Earth Machine monsters, you can normal summon this without tributing. When your opponent activates a spell or trap card or effect, you can send to the graveyard 1 machine monster from your hand or face up on the field, or 1 Ancient Gear Golem from your deck to negate the effect. Ancient Gear Advance. When this card is activated, add 1 Ancient Gear spell or trap card from your deck to your hand, except for Advance. Once per turn, you can tribute 1 monster, draw 1 card, and apply this effect for the rest of this turn. You can normal summon Ancient Gear Golem or level 5 or higher monsters from your that mentions it without tributing. You cannot set cards the turn you activate this card. Tanker. If this card is no more special summon, you can special summon 1 Ancient Gear monster from your hand, except Tanker, ignoring its summoning conditions. If your opponent controls a monster, you can special summon from your graveyard instead. You can target 1 face-up card you control, destroy it. Also, the rest of this turn, all monsters you control that are Ancient Gear Golem or mentions it gain 600 attack. Ancient Gear Duel. Ancient Gear Golem and monsters that mentions it in your monster zone are unaffected by your opponent's activated monster effects. If your opponent controls a monster, you can fusion summon 1 fusion monster that mentions Ancient Gear Golem from your extra deck by banishing monsters from your graveyard or field or graveyard as material, including Ancient Gear Golem you control, and if you do, it can make up to 3 attacks during each battle phase. That's one hell of a trap card. Very useful. First things first, I want to play a couple of online matches. go with Galaxy Eyes and then Yugi's card. Or no, actually like Blackwing. I haven't used Blackwing in a minute. Or Sky U-Bell. Yeah, I got nothing. It was like a it was able to get like a decent Xyz monster out. I could have done something. God, his weak hands. Just in case. I got rid of that Blue Eyes card because, in all honesty, it wasn't worth it. It's a gimmick puppet. This dude went all out to make sure he has like a gimmick puppet deck, which they are pretty cool, but man, it requires making sure these cards are on the field to be utilized. There's a lot of setup involved. Yes, exactly what I was looking for. Crap. I should have just let that ride. I didn't pay attention to this thing's special ability. Alright, let's check out the solo mode. Mobile weapons on the field of battle. Good, this is pretty short. The battle between the Ally of Justice and the worm invaders from outer space raged on. The arrival of the Ally of Justice mechanical masterpiece, Ally of Justice Catastropher, seemed to be a turning point in the battle. But as more of the smarter and larger worms entered the fray, Catastropher alone could no longer withstand the onslaught. It needed to be stronger, it needed to be faster, it needed to be sharper. Something that once deployed on the battlefield would wipe out the worms and still be ready for the next fight. The development of such a weapon was fast-tracked. Engineers worked themselves to the bone to meet the new, more demanding specs. For it to perform as well as needed, they were forced to make it bigger and more complex. The weapon was bestowed with lots of new features, but this also made the development of a sophisticated control unit for such a sophisticated machine all the more difficult. The engineers racked their brains. At this rate, we'll lose. The planet will be overrun with worms. Then one engineer had an idea. Why don't we ask a Gen X to cooperate with us as a central control core? They control the forces of nature like fire and water and have highly advanced tuning abilities. So shouldn't they be able to operate big mobile weapon? After some consideration, the proposal was approved. A Gen X spare that had been adopted by the Ally of Justice was then embedded into the mobile weapon. The moment they saw such an enormous weapon move during its first launch test after incorporating the Gen X spare, everyone involved gasped. How could such a small-looking mechanical being move such a huge weapon all by itself? And with that, the huge dominating Ally of Justice Field Marshal was complete for the time being. Not a good start. Oh, thank God. All right. After several startup tests, the Ally of Justice Field Marshal was ready to enter the battle. There, it was paired up with Gen X controller employed as a communications device to translate and transmit orders. The actions of the Field Marshal were incredible. Despite wave after wave of worms, it mowed them all down. It was like all the struggles before had been nothing but a bad dream as the balance of power shifted in an instant. The victories kept on coming. As the new weapon delivered victory after victory, the morale of the troops rose, and to them the weapon became a symbol of hope. Yet even though the weapon seemed invincible, damage was unavoidable in the midst of combat. Destroyed armor and burnt barrels can be swapped out before dispatched to the next battle. But the core that controlled the massive machine, the Gen X spare, could not be switched out so easily. While the weapon's exterior may have looked pristine, battle after battle had quietly left the Gen X spare profoundly and definitively worn out. On that day too, the Field Marshal stood on the battlefield. At the very strategically important point in one of many hotly contested areas. The resistance put up by the worms that day was more fierce than ever before. Together with the Field Marshal, the allied forces of the tribes and clans fulfilled their duties and struggled on. But a small gap in the formation opened up and worms swarmed into the breach. At this rate, the worms would likely reach the encampment and the Gen X controller. Did the Gen X do what it did because it knew its first priority was to eliminate the worm blight? Or was it to protect the sole entity it could talk on the battlefield? It could talk to on the battlefield, the Gen X controller. The Field Marshal immediately left the front lines and rushed to where the encirclement was broken. Then, using its own massive body as a barrier, it blocked the worm's incursion, risking itself as it attacked with reckless abandon. The battle ended and the horde of worms was forced back. While the Ally of Justice had prepared for defeat at the base, it seemed to have been narrowly avoided. Nevertheless, the losses were great. The wreck of the Field Marshal's frame was still emitting heat even after the battle. The heat simmers, distorting their surroundings. The Field Marshal could no longer move when a small figure approached. When the Gen X controller reached the interior of the frame and found the Gen X spare lying there was probably less than a minute left until it was due to deactivate. Making the most of the precious time it had left, the Gen X spare offered the Gen X controller a single white flower. Once the Gen X controller accepted it, the Gen X spare fell completely silent. Was this leaking coolant? A glistening liquid was pouring out of the Gen X controller's eyes. Kind of like Wall-E. Never been much of a Gen X kind of person, but yeah, that was that story mode done. Anyway, in a little bit I'll be hopping back into some Overwatch, and then that'll be enough for streaming for today. I give myself a break Sunday, then return to form this coming Monday. So we're gonna be getting back to some new reviews. I want to get the start on a new comic book to review. That's an event even in of itself. So a lot I got to get done. But in any case, I'll see you guys later. If not, have a great weekend. Take care, and I'll see you all soon.